kiran haye 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 barandaran kiran haye rantira yakarande kaya lakarande kayandaye rantira yakarande kaya lakarande kayandaye haye 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 barandaran kiran haye 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 antira yakolarande kaya lakarande kayandaye randira yakolarande kaya lakarande kayandaye haye 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 barandaran kiran haye 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 barandaran kiran haye Fractals, anatomy, neural resonance therapy, and the geometry of healing. This is a vision of the human form that integrates both Western and Eastern sciences of the body to uncover new yet ancient potentials in the realm of healing. Accessing the nervous system directly and understanding the pivotal role that system orchestrates is the future of integrated medicine. As therapists who work with the body, we are on the cusp of once again being a revered and significant part of the medicine of today and of our future generations. This program will begin the journey of unraveling the story of how our ancient Eastern systems can commingle within our Western paradigm. The key to this mystery is found within the world of frequency. The same world that lives within everything we can see and everything we cannot is the same world that runs our bodies and the planets that circle around them. We have the ability as somatic therapists and as individuals to communicate with those frequencies directly. Frequencies create orchestrations of geometric harmonies as they oscillate within the waves of cosmic energies, and it is this insight that physics is uncovering that will soon change the world of not only technology, but healing itself. As East and West merge, the physics of frequency will reveal our medicine to be a unification of principles, shedding light on the rift that has existed between alternative and allopathic medicine, proving powerful links between our ancient knowledge and our contemporary wisdoms. This will be a medicine that honors all systems of healing as it looks beyond the borders of flesh and becomes familiar with what the world of energy actually means. Ancient healing systems of the past, such as massage, shiatsu, and acupuncture, will have new meaning as numbers, shape, oscillation, and wave become known as the language of our skin and cells, just as it is known to be the language of the cosmos. Preventative medicine will become more direct and effective than our current models as we recognize the age-old wisdom of the frequencies of natural foods, healing lifestyles, and healing practices to take precedence once again in our lives. This will allow the medical burdens of our age to be greatly reduced, helping doctors focus surgical and pharmaceutical interventions to be used more effectively in conjunction with a populace aware of their own choices and responsibilities in healthcare, who are inspired by the positive results they can obtain. And this same awareness will allow somatic therapies to be honored once again for their essential role in health and healing. Understanding the role of frequency and its language of geometry allows us not only a common language that unites all somatic modalities and dissolves differences between techniques, it also strengthens the work of each individual therapist and whatever technique works best for them. From inception through death, we speak the same language as the cosmos through our very own cellular respiration. Geometry is the building block, the alphabet of the language of frequency that constructs the matrix through which we image ourselves, giving us an ability to communicate even more deeply with the life force that moves through us. This video will walk you through the basic systems known to us in Western sciences and Eastern medical systems to weave a story of integration that begins with structure and ends in frequency. The nature of frequency is fractal. Therefore, what we find in one area, we can see transposed in all others like an image caught in drops of water on a spider's web, with the images being seen in every drop. So what you learn here should be taken literally and then put aside to allow an even larger picture to represent itself. It's best to keep your mind pliable to see these concepts not just in the torso as we draw them out, but available as a template within every geometric matrix that can be seen through the mirror of the platonic solids, through the spirals of DNA, to the cycles of the planets. What you are about to see can be found not only in the torso, but in the forearm, the leg, the face, the fingers. Frequency is in constant movement, and it responds where you focus your attention. It is for this reason that I use the term fractal anatomy, as this is the essence of watching an identical form move from small to large without changing the integrity of its structure, and yet illuminating the structures of all that frequency inhabits. This means that in health and healing we can understand a holographic model, one that can communicate with the physical as well as the energetic, giving us direct access to the nervous system, an ability to learn even more session by session as both sides of our brain communicate even more effectively, and offer our clients, as well as ourselves, a deeper level of healing and awareness as we incorporate this marriage of East and West. This program will walk you through Western and Eastern concepts in healing and illustrate how they can fit together like a jigsaw puzzle. From the West, we have basic systems such as muscles, nerves, and dermatomes, and from the East, we have a host of ancient energy systems such as meridians, chakras, dantians, kundalini, and the insights of traditional Chinese medicine. We will be learning what these systems are, what fractal means, what the platonic solids are, how geometry is found in the universe, and how it relates to health and healing. The more you work with this holographic model, the more your own tried and true methods become even clearer, more directed, more impactful as your sight deepens into this accelerated anatomy of the body I call neural resonance therapy. If you are a beginner, this is a very good place to start your relationship with your learning of the body, and if you are an advanced practitioner, this material will help you do what you already do so well, even better. So let's begin. If the nervous system, being the brain, the spinal cord, and all of its attendant filaments, function through a sodium-potassium pump that emits an electrical impulse, one of billions responsible every second for every thought, every action, and every child born, then we know, scientifically speaking, that we are energy. If our nervous systems are electrical and energetic in nature, then we know that there are oscillations and waves that are emitted every millisecond to accomplish those goals. If we are oscillation and wave, then we are number and shape, and if we are number and shape, we are form, born of electrical conduction, pulsing through every breathing moment of our lives, expressing itself as a moving, fluid matrix of geometry that many call sacred geometry for its hidden yet intimate relationship to all of matter. Mapping this territory is yet to be completed, and this program is a contribution to that conversation. Icosahedron, octahedron, tetrahedron, hexahedron, dodecahedron, icosahedron, etc. Brilliant thing about platonic solids number 2. Because they're fractal, once you have one shape, you have all the others. Don't let one shape trick you into thinking that that's all you're seeing. Brilliant thing about platonic solids number 3. The 5 shapes of the platonic solids create every shape imaginable, like an alphabet that creates many languages. Once you find geometry, you can find fractals, just like once you find numbers, you can find arithmetic. Fractals and geometry are found everywhere in nature, including the body, and the cosmos. The planets spiral around each other as they move because the spiral is the foundation of all movement in the universe and of life itself. If we compact this idea into a 2D image, it would look something like this. This is a picture from a book by John Martineau called A Little Book of Coincidence. The picture on the top describes the ellipses of Venus around the Earth, meaning the spirals that Venus makes as it circumnavigates around our home planet. The picture on the bottom shows us the perfect geometries that can be made when we connect the dots, so to speak, of the relationship between the ellipses of Venus and those of Earth. If this movement is further observed, it looks like a beautiful, perfect spirograph, one seen amongst all of the planets, one known to be true by science, yet the reason for this harmonic interplay are not scientifically understood, and so our science calls it coincidence. The pentagram, as seen in the structure of this planetary interplay, can also be found within the structures of the 5 platonic solids. However, this takes a bit more study of the platonic solids to see how pentagrams and hexagrams and other shapes are made from them, and this program will focus more specifically on how we can see geometry in the body. For now, just keep in mind that once you have one shape, all shapes can be made from them. There are always references of man in relation to planets, seen also in this depiction by Hildegard von Bingen, who was a German mystic back in the 1100s. Planets and their relevance to human balance and imbalance have always been considered by the ancient sciences. Imagine a medicine today that includes a science of how each planet and the pull it exerts on the body and mind of humans is part of health awareness. Around the edges of this picture where the body connects within the circles, we see symbols relating to planets that are represented by the animals of the zodiac and by the stars that are also displayed around the outer rings. We may wonder how the ancients made an art out of understanding the organ system in relation to planets, but consider that we know how the moon affects the tides as well as those of the mind, which is where the word lunacy comes from. It would be an advanced art to really understand the pull of different planets and their reactions to the body from a scientific point of view, and it appears that the ancients did indeed embark upon that art as a serious science, but what they really knew is lost to us. There are 5 platonic solids and there are 5 elements in Chinese medicine. These elements are used to understand the interrelationship of organ systems in health, illness, and healing. In this case, the pentagram is used as a symbol to document movement from one point of reference, state, or process to another, whether we are talking about the elements of the earth, the human body, or the progression of an illness. It is used as a means to interpret and relate to life, health, and healing as it alchemizes between man's inner world and outer experience. You can begin to see here how in the past, philosophy, imagery, and physical reality were all part of the interpretation of man's experience on Earth. Each sphere here represents one of the elements, and they each have correlations to nature, an organ system in the human body, and many other systems that constitute the world around us. Chinese medicine has been documented for the past 5,000 years, and it is an ancient system of healing that is the foundation of acupuncture as we know it today. The Pythagorean pentalpha was left to us by Pythagoras, who lived 2,500 years ago, and who was an historic geometrician and philosopher. The 5 points of the pentagram here are known as the 5 alphas, or principles, very similar to the idea of Chinese elements, and they too follow the interrelationship between planets, organs, virtues of man, and the world of phenomena in which we lived in the ancient past as well as in the present. One thing that never changes are the ways in which the laws of nature govern themselves, and us. And so thousands of years of ancient exploration has been based on the understanding of those laws of nature, and therefore the laws that govern our own human experience in health and healing. There is also this simple ancient symbol of a pentagram that has the name of Hygeia written around it, the goddess of healing. Her name and the pentagram itself have for centuries, if not millennia, been the representation of good health, healing, and social welfare, well before it became a symbol of witchcraft and persecution. Hygeia was the daughter of Asclepius, the god of medicine, and while her father was associated more with healing, she was associated with the prevention of sickness and the continuation of good health. Her name is the source of the word hygiene, and the pentagram a symbol of well-being and vitality. The chakras are the most well-known energy system from the East, and only one of the vast references to the number 7 in ancient writings. In the Hindu tradition, the word chakra is Sanskrit, which is the most ancient language known to man, and it means wheel or turning. A turning wheel or a spinning wheel is the usual interpretation of it, and if we want to consider a fractal perception of a chakra, we might consider the Earth or any other planet that are also spinning wheels if we consider them in 2D, or spinning spheres if we consider them in 3D. There are 7 chakras in number, and they are considered to be centers of life force, or what in Sanskrit is called prana. Prana is breath and life force energy, and chakras are the manner in which this prana feeds the human body. If it seems abstract to consider balls of energy that carry core energy in the body, consider the fact that each planet's core carries an immense amount of energy, and they, too, are great spinning balls of energy that fill our solar system. Also, electrons spin around the nucleus or center of atoms in the same way the moon spins around the Earth, so we're just witnessing the same components of fractal movement in different manifestations of life. In the Pythagorean pentalpha, there are 3 primary centers in the body, along with their 5 points of reference. They are called the superior, supreme, and inferior spheres of the body's energy. The superior lies over the brain, the heart sits at the station of the supreme, and the lower body or lower worlds are known here as the inferior region. We're going to focus on this particular trinity to see how the upper, middle, and lower bodies are represented in a number of different systems, such as Taoism, Chinese medicine, and also our very own Western physiology. As you can see here, the chakras fall in line with 3 other major centers of energy that look like circles that I would like you to think of also as spheres or balls of condensed energy. These are the 3 dantians of Taoism, and they live in the same locations in the human body as the ones we just covered by Pythagoras, who referred to these power centers as superior, supreme, and inferior. The difference between chakras and dantians seems to lie in the idea that the 3 dantians are like fountains of energy centers that pour cosmic juice, shall I say, through the body. The 7 chakras help regulate that juice, or qi, and act as intake and outtake ports to those 3 dantians. To understand this better, consider that the electricity in your house begins with water flowing in nature. In every hydroelectric dam where water force is translated to eventually becoming light within an electric bulb, there are varying stations of that larger energy being broken down into energy more easily assimilated by a system. And so it is with the human body, that is not capable of reading or streaming the vast amounts of energy in the cosmos through such a small yet beautifully crafted vessel as the human body. Somewhere, somehow, massive quantities of power are reduced sufficiently to run and not overwhelm the electrical wiring of our human nervous systems. This is remarkable in itself. Usually we just hear of the lower dantian in the lower belly pertaining to the reproductive center, when in fact there are 3 dantians. The lower dantian, which is located below the navel, has its center considered to be about 3 finger widths below and 2 finger widths behind the navel. This center can be related to the second chakra. It is associated with cultivating vital essence or sexual energy, which in this case is an energy much more powerful than the one we consider existing in our sexual organs alone. In this case, what we call sexual energy is a living, life-giving force that exists in every cell. The Chinese refer to this energy as Jing, and the Hindus refer to it as Kundalini. We in the West haven't moved much past our genitals to find a word that can encompass such a life-giving source. The middle dantian is at the level of the heart and is associated with storing that life energy, or qi, and is responsible for the respiration and health of the internal organs, in particular the thymus gland. This correlates to the 4th chakra. The upper dantian has its center at the forehead between the eyebrows and is considered to be the 3rd eye. It is associated with orchestrating energy in the form of consciousness and spirit, and is associated with the pineal gland. This upper dantian is also associated with the brain and the 6th chakra. The level of magnetic and energetic resonance in these centers is just beginning to be explored. For example, the lower body is where life is created, and located in this same area are the bowels, known as part of the enteric nervous system, which has more neurons, which are the cells of your brain, than your brain itself. Science is baffled as to the clear reason why this is so, and regardless, this means the lower body has an enormous amount of what we'll call electrical energy within it. Science now refers to the enteric nervous system as the second brain because not only does it carry a huge amount of neural activity, it also is capable of functioning on its own if its connections to the rest of the body are severed, which no other organ can do. Science has further discovered that the ancient breath of fire that the yogis have been practicing for millennia, which is breathing rapidly through your nose to pump the lower abdomen to raise energy levels in the body, actually has a scientific basis. As the intestines have a high water content with a great many nerve cells and therefore a great deal of electrical energy, by adding breath you create a pump of sorts. When you pump water, which is a huge conductor of electricity, within an electrical environment, this forms the basis of a battery. Therefore, using breath to pump the lower abdomen actually accelerates the amount of energy present, which yogis then draw through the body with specialized breathing techniques to invigorate every cell. It appears the ancient yogis knew something that our science is only beginning to understand today. Let's add to that with one more triad system just like this found in Chinese medicine. Traditional Chinese medicine has the same triad, located in the same places of brain, heart, and reproductive centers. The three levels are called Jing, Qi, and Shen. This triad is so important in Chinese medicine it has been given its own name, called the Three Treasures. Jing is housed in the lower region of the body, which correlates to the second chakra. Jing is considered to be the battery pack of your human electrical charge. Jing would be like the water source of the hydroelectric dam we were discussing, a raw source energy that requires to be transformed so that it can be much more easily assimilated by the human form that is only equipped to run so much charge. If the body were given the whole electrical charge of the cosmos, the human body would explode with the impact of full cosmic force that runs the universe. Jing is also the same concept as the Hindus have for Kundalini, a life force greater than the human experience that gives us just enough juice to run these incredible temples we live in, yet not enough to act like gods and create whole universes ourselves, because really, why give a grenade to a 5-year-old? We are clearly blessed to only be given so much power to work with, and given any more, we might make things even messier. So the body seems to have safety constraints on it, and the yogis, when having achieved a greater level of spiritual and compassionate awareness, were able to harness more of this energy with their ancient techniques. Perhaps this cosmic safety catch of not providing more power of the universe until a being has reached a level of spiritual maturity is a very good thing. The second of the three treasures is Qi, located in the region of the heart, and is responsible for respiration and the storage of utilizable energy of the body. Jing is to Qi what a battery in a radio is to the workings of the radio. If there are no batteries, there is no voice emitted from the radio or lights that go on when you utilize the energy source of the batteries. However, the voice and the lights of the radio are very different from the battery source themselves, and yet no voice or lights can be heard or seen without the battery power. So Jing are like the batteries that need to be stepped down and transmuted into an energy source that can be expressed as voice and light. Jing or Kundalini are like the batteries, and Qi, or prana as the Hindus refer to it, are like the voice that comes out of the radio. The third treasure is the brain, and we know how much energy the brain carries with all of its electrical wiring, one of the primary engines of the nervous system, and so the brain carries the power of consciousness known in Chinese medicine as Shen. So Jing, Qi, and Shen are the three treasures that correspond to the three Dantians, the three power sources known to the Pythagoreans and medieval philosophers, and the three magnetic and electrical organ systems of the brain, heart, and reproductive centers known to contemporary science. These three centers are highly powerful arenas of neural activity, all run and orchestrated by the nervous system. The source of this electrical orchestration is provided by a universe that holds greater power and that meets it out to each individual with a cosmic dropper we know little about. So let's recap. We have the understanding that there is a vital life force in the body that gives us life. There appear to be three primary centers of this energy in the body, as proven by Western science that is aware of the electrical and magnetic properties of the brain, the heart, and the enteric nervous system, which is accompanied by the powerhouse of the reproductive system. Ancient philosophers noted that there were three centers of power they referred to as the superior, the supreme, and the inferior worlds. The Taoists represent this system through the Dantians, which pertain to the upper, middle, and lower power centers, and science has confirmed that ancient yogic practices do indeed follow a scientific reality that was previously unknown. And the ancient Chinese have always considered these three centers to be so important, they are called the three treasures. And finally, the chakra system relates to this and falls perfectly in line with the second, fourth, and sixth chakras. The number 3 is important because its shape is the tetrahedron, and all geometric shapes can be reduced to a triangle, or its 3D equivalent, the prism. The triangle is the most fundamental shape in nature after the circle, and all other shapes can be reduced to a series of triangles. The most stable shape in nature is the equilateral triangle, as well as the most integrative. The triangle represents the trinity of body, mind, and spirit, and this concept of 3 is one of the easiest access points in the body for working with the fractal nature of the body and healing, as we will see. Next, I want to continue with another set of the triad visible in the body, which will give us 3 vertical lines running through the body from top to bottom. In order to do that, I'm going to start with a brief explanation of meridians and nadis so that we can refer to them as we continue. The meridians come from Chinese medicine and are the basis upon which acupuncturists find the correct ideas on the body to insert a needle and stimulate the energy pathways within the body. It's much more sophisticated than sticking a fork into a light socket, but it's sort of a similar concept with much more flair. Meridians are pathways of energy that carry the vital essence or qi and jing throughout the body. This system is considered to be an ancient way of tracking the nervous system, and we can see the truth of this in what Western science calls dermatomes. However, in-depth information on the meridian system will be saved for a program on its own, as there is so much to cover. For now, I'd like you to be aware of only the basics of the meridian system for the purposes of the geometries we're going to look at here. There are 12 primary meridians that correlate to organ systems, and 2 more taken from what are called the 8 extraordinary meridians that correlate to different energy patterns to make 14 meridians as the classical meridian system. These 2 extra meridians borrowed from the 8 are called Ren and Du, and they essentially bisect the body, one running down the middle of the front from top to tail, and one running down the middle of the back. In acupuncture school, we are taught that Ren and Du are 2 connected but different lines, hence its description of running down the front or the back. However, I encourage you to consider them as one single plane of light or energy that runs as a continual line through the body instead of around it from top to tail, back up to the top again. This is essential to considering the frequencies of the body, that these lines are actually planes of energy moving from one side of the body or arm or leg to the other. In India, they have their version of energy pathways in Hindu philosophy called nadis, which are much like meridians, except they are many more in number, 72,000 commonly considered, and they are like fine filaments that run through the body, whereas meridians are more like thicker cords in comparison. Consider how the electrical wiring of your house has many filaments in one cord that also attaches to even larger cords as electricity flows from its source to your light bulb. There are 3 main nadis that are much thicker than the rest of the filaments, and they run in 3 vertical lines throughout the body. According to Hindu philosophy, these 3 bands of energy create the core energy system of the body, where the kundalini, the cosmic universal energy that feeds the body, runs like a powerful stream to then be dispersed throughout the whole organ system and to every cell. Kundalini is symbolized by the undulating serpent who lies coiled at the base of the spine to be awakened through spiritual practice and ascends up the spine to what's known as the Brahmarandra, or the pineal gland, in Western physiology. Chinese medicine and the meridian system have their own version of this story, which means the same thing but uses different words. In this case, Jing is the word used rather than Kundalini, and is the same core universal energy source. This source energy is streamed through the body as a function of the kidney energy. Understand that while we have an impression of what the kidney function is, the Chinese have a broader understanding of organ function, as including psychological and emotional functions. So when we say kidney here, we are actually referring more to a battery pack of the body that then feeds the rest of the organ systems, rather than something that removes waste products from the blood and regulates water fluid levels. Both the Hindu and the Chinese version also consider the left and right bands of energy on each side of the spine to be polar opposites of one another. The right channel, known as Pingala in Sanskrit and as kidney yang in Chinese medicine, are considered to be solar in energy, and their symbol is the sun. They represent the positive and masculine energies and the active component of life force. The left channel, or nadi, is known as Ida in Sanskrit and as kidney yin in Chinese, and in both philosophies they are considered lunar in nature, and their symbol is the moon. They represent the feminine, negative energies and the more nourishing, quiescent aspects of energy flow. While much of this can sound mythological or symbolic, it is actually displaying the knowledge that the ancients of thousands of years ago were considering the electrical or energetic basis to the body. The solar and lunar image is used ubiquitously throughout history, myth, and timeless symbol to indicate the primary forces of the duality we find ourselves in these 3 dimensions and 5 senses. They were aware of polarity and charge and the positive and negative aspects to cellular and electrical flow. The solar and lunar symbol is the method of offering this message without the use of words or language, so that wisdom translates over time and through civilizations. There is no better method than symbol to ensure transit through the ages where languages and cultures get lost and are changed. Wisdoms of the past do not constitute a primitive science, but rather a very advanced one that was aware of the energetic blueprint of the body as well as the physical body, and who gave more emphasis on the blueprint, leaving us thousands of years of research that our quantum science can now begin to comprehend. Those cosmological insights to our biology, where planetary pull meet resonance of mind, creating matter out of light and sound, will also inform our medicine of the future. For the present, there is much we can do to access this internal, ancient wisdom. Aside from educating ourselves on how our bodies work and using the ancient systems of yoga, stretch, qigong, and others, our diets keep us healthy as we work our own bodies to align more fully with vitality and well-being. As well, the maps left to us from the ancient past seem to not only agree with one another, but to become accessible when we view their information as frequency expressed in a language of geometry. The added understanding of the fractal nature of the seen and the unseen allow us to work directly with the body with more clarity. For example, the triad we have been discussing and will be exploring further can also be applied to the calf, as well as many other parts of the body. The upper, middle, and lower part of the calf, as only one example of this fractality, can become a sort of mirror of what we may find in the trunk of the body, because all parts of the body can be sectioned into three. Therefore, this map work gives us great insight into not only how to read the landscape of the body, but it gives us more areas to work on in order to address a primary area of concern. For example, pain between the shoulder blades can actually be found as a pain or a very sore spot in the upper calf. These concepts of neural resonance therapy represent a comprehensive way to combine Eastern, Western, ancient, contemporary, and quantum knowledge. To date, I cannot find a system or piece of information that does not fit into this paradigm. While this map is but a beginning to a much larger science, it is the study of geometry and the interactions of the five platonic solids as the language of the world of geometry that will give us the most insight. Once you lay geometry over any system, not only are the intricacies of that system better understood, but their connection to all other systems is also more readily seen. And this brings us all closer to breakthroughs in medicine, music, healing, art, architecture, physics, and more. If there are three vertical lines in the body, you would think that our science would have some kind of correlation to that. And in fact, our nervous systems do find proof of this concept of electrical charge orchestrating the core energy functions of the body in a triad manner. As just one basic example, let's take a look at the spinal column and its immediate peripheral nerves. What you see here is the spinal column and the nerves that exit from each vertebra. Before they go out to do their various intricate duties, allowing you to feel, think, move, breathe, and live, they form a little football huddle, making a grid-like system of electrical energy that in physiology are called ganglion. Keep in mind that this is like an electrical wiring, and that the level of electrical charge in the brain, spinal column, and its attendant nerves is massive. It creates life, it is life, and it's a current and charge that is scientific in value. Interestingly, ancient philosophers have considered the spinal column to be an evolutionary work in progress that will result in three vertical columns of spinal cord instead of just one. Whether the ancient Western man knew about the three nadis known to the Hindu tradition, or the three energy currents known in ancient Chinese medicine, or even the anatomical truth behind the nervous system having anything to do with three lines of current, they believed that cords to the left and the right of the spine would eventually be as thick as the spine itself, completing a triad of electrical impulse that created the action potentials to run our lives. Looking at the spinal cord as we know it today, it doesn't seem an impossible idea. So to recap, there are not only 3 centers or treasures of the body that outline the 3 primary magnetic and energetic areas of brain, heart, and generative center, we also have 3 lines that run vertically up the spine and alongside it that is found in traditional Chinese medicine, Hindu and esoteric writings, as well as in our current Western physiology. If it's true that we have 3 vertical lines running the core energy system of the body from deep within its center, we need to start imagining it much more than a line on the body. Our minds like simplicity, and yet we need to see in 3D much more to get a better picture of what we're talking about. We also need to start considering how, if we were people who could see such energy patterning in the body and who wanted to express these concepts, how we might represent it to last through the ages. We'd have to draw diagrams that looked very two-dimensional, as the ancients did not have 3D animation, so let's start looking at these 3 lines from that perspective. Here is the meridian system. The details of it, as I've said, I will leave for another program, and these are very helpful in knowing how to work with the body to access core energy areas. The main thing I want you to absorb here is to consider the meridians as if they were hair, and the braid they weave are the 3 vertical lines that create the triad of core energy we have just been discussing. The center of this triad is the spine itself, and yet it has 2 attendant fields on each side of it, one positive, one negative, and the interplay of positive to negative electrical charge creates a vortex of spin. This gives us the life cycle we see in depictions of the chakra system, although this curving wave we see wrapping around each chakra is really a 2-dimensional depiction of a 3-dimensional reality. This undulating wave, if looked at in 3D, would look more like a spiral. Just as water spins as a vortex in a whirlpool, or a tornado as it moves winds across a plain. So consider the life cycle of the meridians as being more like a vortex spiral than a 2-dimensional picture on the body. And in this way, looking at these 3 vertical lines, consider them planes of energy that run through the body instead of on it. Taking a look at the meridian system here in the back, we can see 3 very clear bands made out of the 2 orange lines that border each side of the spine and the 2 lines that create a similar band on each side of that, equaling 4 lines depicting 3 bands with the spine in the middle. These orange lines are the bladder meridian, and it may seem strange that the bladder would be the organ most responsible for such a core line of energy. However, the bladder meridian is married, so to speak, to the kidney meridian, which is running directly across from the bladder meridian on the front side of the body. So actually, we are looking at the planes of energy running from the inside out to the front and the back that are considered the battery pack of the body. If you were to simplify this system so that you could see 3 vertical lines, you might just draw 3 lines as seen here in white, instead of the 4 orange lines you see here, to make a point. You can see from the top of the head that this could also be represented by 3 dots to signify the centers of the 3 lines, as every energy field or tension in a muscle has a core to its center. Let's now consider how physical tension runs in the body and look at the horizontal bands of electrical and physical constriction. Muscles cannot contract without the nervous system telling it to do so. Therefore, muscle contraction is an electrical or energetic event. Also, for every muscular event, there is a core contraction to the pull of it. Much like an old-fashioned girdle may pull in from the top to the bottom, yet the center around the waist will be the most constricted. Wilhelm Reich was a contemporary of Freud's, his youngest analyst in Vienna as psychiatry was being put on the map. He is responsible for giving us a very detailed map of tension patterns as they build and how they are best capable of being released in the body safely. While I give whole lectures just on Reich and his groundbreaking work, for the purposes of this program, I just want to point out the bands of tension he outlines here and how they line up with the 3 primary centers found in other systems. By the way, if you don't know about Wilhelm Reich, it's because his work was found to be very controversial for his insistence that the source energy running the body was also based in the sexual function, and of course sex is still a taboo subject in therapies of any kind. Therefore, while you likely have been taught techniques and insights about tension and healing based on his work, his name is only known amongst those who are very well studied in the somatic and psychology fields. The Taoists also consider horizontal patterns of energy that correlate with Reich's findings, and the Japanese, as well, have systems that track not only vertical meridian flow, but also horizontal bands of energy that is a study all of its own. To find a correlate in Western medicine, we have only to look at the map of dermatomes, which is a common Western physiology. Dermatomes are areas on the skin that relate to nerve function. This is the map of how we feel on our skin and how our skin relates information back to the brain to let us know what hurts and what feels good. You can see that this common anatomy map shows us the horizontal flow of sensation as well as the vertical, which follow the manner in which these nerves exit the spinal column and how neural conduction feeds the whole exterior of the body. While the nervous system is much more complicated than even Western science can fully understand, this anatomical map of dermatomes can be considered our first Western map of energy flow if we consider that neural flow is electrical flow, as understood by the functions of the sodium-potassium pump. These images illustrate to us the horizontal flow of electrical and mechanical response in the body, and in truth, as bioenergetics founder Alexander Lowen stated, we are much like worms with horizontal and vertical actions that allow us to move, breathe, swallow, eat, give birth, and stimulate peristalsis. In short, we function on a horizontal and vertical patterning that allows for full contraction and expansion of our being to pump life through it, from the minute movement to the more dense physical expressions of human living. In weaving together these ideas, we can see how a grid pattern begins to reveal itself, and they illustrate intersection points that follow along each side of the spine. These, in turn, not only outline two of the dantians in line with the chakras in the torso, but also let's add another system of three that is prevalent in Chinese medicine. The Chinese have a meridian they call San Jiao, or three burners, otherwise known as the triple heater meridian, and it relates to the three main chakras in the pelvis, diaphragm, and chest. They are called the upper, middle, and lower jiaos, or burners, which relate to the upper chest, the diaphragm region, and the pelvic girdle, just as the second, third, and fourth chakras relate to them here. Lining all these up, the weaving of different systems begins to look quite cohesive. As this energy system lies so deeply within the construct of the body, the primary question for somatic therapists is how to work with it. We can do this by understanding where the intersection points lie within the body, which ones are most accessible and where, and how to use our somatic techniques, or even our own meditative techniques, to access these power points and encourage the flow of energy to move easily where it may be sluggish due to a variety of reasons. It is this skill we can use in conjunction with any given somatic modality that I call neural resonance therapy. The best way to begin working with these concepts is to address the intersection points that fall in line with the outer vertical flows of the Kundalini and kidney energies along the back. Bring this primary template idea to your work and see if imaging this internal flow does not greatly enhance your ability to facilitate tension release for your clients. Think, when you work, not what muscles you are manipulating, but the core sphere of energy that muscle is catering to. Look for the sphere you're thinking into and think in when you work, and it won't matter what technique you use. You will be able to use your technique with much more laser-like precision. If you're finding difficulty with it at first, two things may be happening. One, you may still be thinking too much on the surface of the body and not able to visualize the center you are wanting to connect with. Secondly, you may be pressing too hard. Thinking in the body means visualizing it, not pressing so hard as to touch it with your fingers. Instead, see the light energy emanating from your fingers into the center core you are addressing, whether it be a dantian, an intersection point, or a chakra. Pressing too hard will shoot past the subtle area where the nervous system communicates with you. There are a variety of ways to work not only with the torso connections, but also through the neck and legs as well as the rest of the body. Information on actual methods to do so will be covered in other workshops and videos. For now, I want to give you a manner of seeing the geometry in the body so you can deepen your own experience when giving treatments. While neural resonance therapy is more of a philosophy than a technique, the skill of working with a map like this revolves around your inner vision and ability to think past what you can see or feel on the surface. The beauty of neural resonance therapy is that once you can see the geometries within the body, the nervous system continues to teach you more with the somatic methods you love to work with the most. This is why watching geometry as it morphs in its fractal manner and playing with geometrical shapes is a very helpful way to stimulate your brain to communicate these ideas through your hands and through the bodies of your clients. When working to the core energy of the body this way, the constrictions held in the nervous system get communicated with directly, and this causes the neural impulses, which are telling the muscles to hold, to release that muscular hold, and this translates as physical release. The releases are profound and immediate when you get the right angle into the core that you are looking for. Often the body jumps, fingers move, mouths twitch. Imagining the intersection points and dantians to look like the sun is helpful. There are muscles you can feel on the surface of the body, and the tightest spot of that muscle can be considered to be the end of a sun ray emanating from a center you are looking for. This will help you create a discussion with the neural impulses and enhance your ability to read the body's needs more easily. More techniques will be explored in later programs, and for now, I want you to take these concepts to your practice and let your intuition and internal vision guide you. Now, I want to take you deeper into the geometry of what we're discussing so that you can start to envision this geometry all the more. This image of the geometry created looks much like this image of the Kabbalah, which is an ancient symbol of a sect of Judaism not commonly used in traditional Judaism, but part of a very tight group of ancient scholars and religious studies called Kabbalism that still exists today. While codes of Jewish law focus on what it is God wants from man, Kabbalah is considered to penetrate deeper to God's essence itself. This symbol is also known as the Tree of Life, or the blueprint of all creation. It is considered by this sect that there is an all-powerful force or creator that controls everything in reality. All the world's forces descend from this comprehensive force. While some forces, such as gravity or electricity, are known to us, there are more complex forces of a higher order that are hidden to our knowledge. Kabbalah is considered to be the map or the knowledge of how these hidden forces are structured and the laws by which they influence us. It seemed an interesting coincidence that this symbol looks very similar to the geometry we've outlined. It consists of 3 lines, 6 primary intersection points, horizontal bands between them, and a system of similar spheres running up the center of the body. Yet the angled lines refer to the idea that it is attempting to show a 3rd dimension, much like art students are taught to use angle to show depth beyond 2D. While I'm not making any religious statements or assumptions, I did find myself considering what this shape would look like in 3 dimensions. Let's start with the geometry as we have outlined it. We have 3 vertical lines, 3 horizontal lines, 3 dantians, 7 chakras, and the life cycle that weaves around them. If we consider the shape made around the core of the structure in the body, we see the 6 intersection points, and if we remove the energy planes around this core structure, we end up with this core shape that covers 5 chakras. However, this shape is not 2-dimensional. It is a representation of energies that can be seen 3-dimensionally as well. If you wanted to consider a 3D version of the Kabbalah, it might look like this. This is an elongated triangular shape, angled up. If we saw it in the body, it would look like this. But how does this fit in with the rest of geometry? If we look at the top of the head, we can see the core meridian lines with 3 vertical lines running through the body suggested. The triangular shape, the most fundamental structure in geometry, and the shape from which all other shapes emerge, would show more than the 3 lines. It would also add depth, indicating a more 3-dimensional aspect to the geometry. However, this is just as true illustrated with the triangular point in one direction as it would be in the other, and putting both of these shapes together, we find ourselves looking at the Seal of Solomon, or Star of David. This is another ancient symbol more recently used politically in our world that represents many things, one of which is the polarity of fire and water, or the sun and the moon, or the positive and negative charges of the duality of nature that we find ourselves living in electrically, metaphorically, mythically, and scientifically. This shape, when also elongated, becomes an interesting 6-sided structure, a crystalline symbol, one that reflects light that passes through it to create all the colors of the rainbow, just as quartz crystals do. Colors are different frequencies in vibration that create the rainbow of effects we can see. Crystals emit a pulse of frequency so regular that when an electrical or energetic impulse passes through it, we can literally tell time with it, such as we do with quartz crystal watches. If the regular pulsation of a crystal can tell time, what time can it tell beyond the frequencies we currently understand? Consider other ancient images we see, such as this carving in bronze of a crucifixion plate from the 7th century in Ireland. Here we find a triangle of spirals above Christ's head, just as we found a triangle on top of the philosopher's tree of the ancient philosophers. Here we find 3 vertical lines along the skirt of Jesus and 6 spirals that run up the body, surrounded by angels that have similar triads of spiral energy as they play their harps, creating the music of the spheres. The ancient images indicate there was a wisdom that may well have been passed down to us in myth, symbol, and religious iconography. The languages they used to seal this great knowledge to survive the passage of time, cultures, languages, and traditions may well have been written in the same language upon which they are based. Perhaps geometry was an ancient, symbolic way of captivating the essence of life itself, leaving the sages to share the words throughout the ages that we are light, born of light and embodying light, and that this truth has been told in every great religion around the world. Our bodies may be a fractal expression of this emanation, each one of us the center of our own cosmos and a holographic reflection of the greater whole. It appears there is a science of light, and we are beings of crystalline structure radiating this reflection from every center of every molecule, through the body, and out into uncharted space itself. We are refractive rays of color, sound, and frequency, a microcosm of the fractal macrocosm, embodying a holographic reality we are just beginning to explore. We are shape, born of energy. We are light, found in every cell, expressing itself as geometry, known as sacred. And we are a great and beautiful vision of the future.